Hi and welcome everyone. Good evening. I'm Susan Greeley, the National Director of Wellness Services at Castle Connolly Private Health Partners. And I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening for another Sun's Wellness webinar. Happy June. It's amazing to say that we already are in June. So for those who may be here for the first time, I like to say that these Sun's Wellness webinars are intended to educate and support all of our members. It's with them that it truly is my goal to inspire and empower you to make healthy lifestyle choices and support your overall health and well-being. I have just a few things to mention before we officially start as people are logging in this evening. So I have the reminders are that we will be recording the webinar. We do always record these Sense Wellness webinars. We'll be sending out the recording with a copy of the slides from tonight's presentation. So that you will be receiving as well. People often ask that. In that email that goes out over the next couple of days, I also include other wellness offers from our affinity partners. So please do be on the lookout for that. And very importantly, we include a Q&A, a question and answer session at the end of tonight's presentation. So at any point during tonight's presentation, please submit your questions and we will get to as many or all of them at the end. So I think we're at that point. People are logging in. I'll get ready to start. Once again, thank you all for joining me for tonight's Sen's Wellness webinar on a mind-body approach to fitness and aging. So that is, let me stop sharing my slides. So welcome everyone. Once again, I'm Susan Greeley, the National Director of Wellness Services at Castle Connolly Private Health Partners. Thank you for joining us in June. And I want to mention that June is National Men's Health Month, and in particular this week is Men's Health Week leading up to Father's Day. So I just want to say Happy Father's Day to all, and thank you for joining us. With that, I am thrilled to have tonight's speaker. He is a six-time Ironman himself. He is, his name is Mark Allen, and he will be sharing a lot of his own knowledge, experience, and expertise in the area of both fitness and aging and the mind-body approach to that. So Mark Allen is my guest speaker. He is, as I said, a truly legendary former endurance athlete, and he's now retired from competition. So Mark is the founder of Mark Allen Coaching, and he is also the co-founder and co-author of Fit Soul, Fit Body, 9 Keys to a Healthier, Happier You. And I'm hoping he speaks a lot about that as well tonight. So I'm very happy to have Mark join me this evening. To me, he's simply an awe-inspiring human, and I'm truly honored to have you here on this webinar tonight, Mark. So without further ado, I'll turn things over to you.
All right, well, thank you, Susan. Really excited to be here. Just so you all have a little framework of where I'm at now. I'm 63 years old. I know I don't look a day over 80, but I'm trying to hold it together there. I haven't competed since I was 37, which was, whatever, 26 years ago, if I did my math right. And if there's one thing I learned, there's two things that I have really carried with me since I stopped competing. And one is that as an athlete, it was so clear that if I'm not training, if I'm not eating right, that my body changes in a direction that I'm not so happy about. However, if I just take that first step, whether it's Monday or Tuesday or June or July or at any age, to take a positive step in the direction of eating a little healthier, exercising a little bit, doing things that I can to reduce stress and to just feel, better living in my skin, that it makes a difference. Just that, like, let me ask you all a question. Have you all gone for a walk in your life? I can see the hands going up.
Yeah, they can raise their hands.
How did you feel when you got done? Did you feel pretty good? I bet you did. So, something is just as simple as going for a walk can really, you see how you felt when you went out the door. Maybe you were grumpy, maybe you were stressed, maybe you had things on your mind. You go for a walk, you're outside, you breathe the air. In June here, it's beautiful, sunny, a lot of places getting very hot actually. And you come back and you go, wow, that actually felt good. And so just little by little, we can make dramatic changes. Like they say, little by little adds up to a lot. And that's how I approach everything that I do with health, with wellness, with fitness, with exercise, with diet. Just making small little changes that I can keep up consistently. You know, a lot of folks are kind of looking for this dramatic one thing that will, you know, turn their entire life into nirvana. And that's not how it works. You know, I love to coax my body into making the changes that I'm hoping to see happen, and to, you know, stay at those levels of health and vitality, and hopefully living a long life. And I just do it a little bit at a time each and every day. And so what I will be sharing today are just simple things that you can do consistently, that you can do today, tomorrow, for the, you know, really for the rest of your life, with movement, with how you feel your body, fuel your body, and how you approach life just in general as a mindset. So, and since it is Men's Health Month, and I guess this is Men's Health Week, right? That's what you said, Susan?
Yeah.
You know, I have noticed, and you probably have seen this too. I live in Santa Cruz, California, and so it's an active town. A lot of people surf, a lot of people run, walk, bike, do all sorts of things, hike, and it's interesting because this is a very big generalization, but women tend to exercise together, and they tend to just exercise. Guys seem to either be full on hardcore into a sport, or they do nothing. And so, you know, what I would like to do is to also, you know, at least for you guys out there, to just maybe give a different purpose for what exercise and doing a sport or something can be for you. That it's not about a performance or a time or having to excel at something. It's to give yourself just a day-to-day experience of doing something positive for your body that adds up over time into turning your life into this amazing experience that you have, because you are healthy, because you can move, because you are flexible, because you have balance, because your body composition is maybe better today than it was last year at this time. So it's everything that I'll be talking about has nothing to do with performance. You know, my days of performance, athletic performance, are over. You know, and so I'm living the life that each and every person my age and younger and older is going to do at some point, which is like, how do I take care of myself? And I'll tell you a secret. It's not a mystery. Right. If we have just a few little things. So let's jump into it and see what we can come up with here today. So I'm kind of calling this the Over 50 Life Reboot, and meaning reboot just in the sense that sometimes we just kind of need to stop for a second and go, okay, I'm doing some things that are helping me out, and I'm doing some things that I know are not helping me out, and there's some things that I don't know what I should be doing. And so this is just going to give you a few simple things to think about. Three main areas that I'll be talking about. One is movement. How do we move our bodies? What's a way to do it so that it brings vitality back to our bodies, so that it's something that we can do each and every day, you know, so that we don't burn out, so that it's a positive experience. And, you know, everybody is going to have their level of what movement is and what they like to do. Maybe one person likes to run, another person likes to walk, another person loves their mountain bike, somebody else does Pilates, somebody else does yoga. You know, there's so many great choices and great options for having guidance in how you move your body. Second thing I'll be talking about, main area, is fueling. You know, most people, if they get in one sort of exercise session a day, they're doing pretty good. But eating, we got all day to eat, you know, and so how do we do that in a way that services the hardwiring that we all have? You know, like some people might look at me and you go, you're this Ironman dude, and you got these genetics that are so different from everybody else. I mean, look at you, look at me, you know, whatever it is, you know, I'm shorter, I'm taller, I'm heavier, I'm thinner, whatever it is, we're different. And if you looked at our DNA under a microscope, our DNA is all about 99.5% the same. So the variations between you and me and your neighbor and your friend and your family members, the difference in your DNA is like 0.5%. But each part of that DNA can be activated, or it can sort of remain dormant, so to speak. So what we want to do is to activate the positive health parts of our DNA that are inside each and every single human being on this planet. And I tell people, if you have a body, you are an athlete. Maybe you're not going to win an Ironman, or you're not going to do any type of competition, but being an athlete means that you honor your body through exercise, through movement, through fueling it well, fueling it. It sounds like I'm saying feeling it. You don't want to feel your body, do you? You want to just enjoy fueling the body with good food. And then the last piece, I'm rambling here. The last piece is to look at our inner landscape. You know, how are we viewing life? How are we managing stress? How are we what things get us excited to get up in the morning? Okay, so let's just dive right in. We all have a heart, right? Anybody out there not have a heart? You got a heart, and that muscle is one that really needs to be exercised beyond just beating normally day in and day out. Moving is simple. Human beings are the best endurance animals on the planet, meaning that we can just benefit with good health by just doing steady movement. You don't have to do something hard or intense. It's just about moving your body, elevating that heart rate a little bit, even if it's just a little bit, getting up and walking. And you don't have to do big, huge walks, just maybe 5-10 minutes in the morning, 5-10 minutes at noon, a little bit more later on after dinner, whatever it is, so that you have constant movement throughout the day. Of course, if you do want to do a little harder workout, that's fine. But human beings, we get a lot of benefit out of just steady movement. Back in ancient times, when people were moving steadily, that was because there was food supply. And when there's food supply and people were moving to gather food, to hunt food, they had a positive attitude. The only time that they didn't move much was when the food supply was less, like in the winter. And so to conserve energy, their mood sort of kind of went, like this. It wasn't as positive, because if there's not much food, you don't want to be running all over the place trying to find it, right? You need to conserve energy. And so fast forward into modern times, if we move, our ancient genetics are saying, oh, life is plentiful, life is good. There's food out there, and I can get it, and I am happy. When we do not move, our ancient genetics are reading that as, oh, there's not much food, we can get a little depressed, our energy drops, and then we don't want to move. It's survival. But obviously, if we sit around all the time, we're not going to be as healthy as somebody who is up and moving around a lot. As you age, when you get over about 50, your body will respond really, really fast to changes in fitness if you do something that's a little faster, that gets the breathing rate up. And so it's not something you want to do all the time, but if you like to do stuff that's a little bit faster, a little bit more intense, you can, but keep it very short, very, very short, 10-15 minutes within any given workout, maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks is plenty for old folks. An older body cannot manage the stress of high intensity workouts the same as somebody in their 20s or 30s or even 40s. And so while older folks get a super bump in their fitness by doing something a little more intense, you can't do it all the time or you will burn out. And that's one of the mantras, that if you walk away with one thing as far as movement that you will commit to, it's to coming up with something that you can do consistently. Today, tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day. It doesn't have to be the same thing, but something, so that you don't go really hard today. Oh, that was a hard, good workout. And you wake up tomorrow feeling like a truck ran over you. Consistency is key for health. Consistency in exercise, consistency in basic good eating, consistency in sleep, consistency. There's been some research shown recently that it's better to actually do things a couple times throughout the day than it is to do a big workout, let's say in the morning, and then you sit the rest of the day. If you do that, you get up, you do a nice workout, and then maybe you're working or you're at your computer all day long and you sit for 10 hours, you still have the same chance of getting cardiovascular disease as somebody who's completely sedentary. The takeaway on that is do that workout if you like to in the morning, but at the same time, get up and move around throughout the day. As we age, this can actually become a challenge, right? So when you are when you're younger and you're working and you have kids and there's all this activity, that is actually movement. You're racing around, you're picking things up, you're cleaning the house, you're working on the garden, whatever it is, you're moving. All of a sudden, you don't go to work. Your kids are out of the house. There's nothing going on, and all of a sudden you're sitting much more. If you can reverse that trend and get back to being active throughout the day, that will really jumpstart your physical health. It will get you back into that rhythm of moving. And so if you do a workout in the morning, that's great, but then also do something later in the day, something completely different, something that's just movement for fun. Get out and go for a walk. Go down to a park and watch the sunset. Whatever it is, so that you're moving more than once a day and not sitting all the time. You've heard all this stuff, but I think it's good to just hear it another time. As you age, one of the reasons that there's a couple reasons why as we age, you can tend to get a little plumper, right? Women go through menopause, hormonal changes. Men don't have menopause, but their testosterone levels drop. Both of those things can put us in a state where the same exercise that we did earlier in life may not carry us into those later years, and we can put on extra body weight. If you don't want that to happen, one of the best things that you can do is to do some strength training. And I don't even like to use the word strength, because it sounds like you got to go in a gym and you got to be a big pumped up dude to enjoy the experience. But it's more like resistance training. So even if you have bands that you can stretch, or little hand weights that you can do things in your home where you're working the muscle, you do maybe it's just as simple as standing up and getting up and down from a chair to simulate squats, whatever it is. As we age, we tend to lose muscle mass. Muscle is metabolically super active, which means that it's burning calories day and night. So that's generally why younger folks seem to be a little bit leaner than older folks, because the young folks still have a lot of muscle because of all these hormones that they have rolling around in their bodies. As we age, a lot of those hormones diminish. As those diminish, if we don't do strength training, we lose lean muscle, which means that our overall calorie burn throughout the day slows down. So just think about how that might be incorporated into your movement in the week. Maybe one day you do a little bit of core exercise. You're working all of those muscles in the midsection of your body, both in the front and the back. And that can also really help you with becoming more physically stable and balanced, so that your movement comes from like your glutes, and your abs are a platform for movement. Another day, maybe you do go to the gym and you do a workout with a trainer, or there's so many options online too for fitness apps that you can get. Like Apple has their Apple Watch, and you can have the Apple Fitness, where they have online little 20-minute workouts, 15-minute workouts, 10-minute workouts, and they're divided up into different types of exercise. Some are like stationary bikes, some are higher intensity workouts, some are core workouts, just different things that you can be engaged with, so that it just makes it simple. And it makes it harder to come up with an excuse like, I can't think of what to do today. Well, yeah, you got your watch and you got your app. Those choices are there. And that brings up the last piece, which is, it's kind of an accountability. So I know and you won't believe me, but I'm going to tell you the truth. When I was racing, I knew that I was lazy in the sense that if I had a big workout coming up that was going to be challenging for me, if it was just me that was going to be doing the workout, I could come up with like 1,000 reasons why I should put it off for the next day or for the next week or cut it short or anything like that. If I knew that I was meeting my 3 or 4 different training partners at a particular corner at a certain time to go do this long ride or this long run or whatever it is, I was going to show up. That was accountability. And it gave me super consistency because I had that community of support of athletes that I was training with. So what is your accountability for being consistent with your movement? Maybe you have people that you go for a walk with, that you meet for a workout. That is a great way to have accountability. They're going to be there. You're going to be there. You support each other. It turns into this fun thing that makes it more like play than it is like a workout, you know. Maybe you have your Apple Watch or another device that is measuring the calories you're burning throughout the day. Maybe it's a Fitbit, whatever it is, so that you you can almost play a game with yourself. Like, okay, I want to burn a certain number of calories a day. And so you set your watch and you see, oh, I'm nowhere close to that. And the days you hit it, it's kind of like this pat on the back, like, hey, good job. You know, you did that one simple thing for yourself. You moved throughout the day. You burned your 300, 400, 500 calories through movement, and you feel good. You weren't sitting around all day. It's okay to sit around, but at the same time, move. Fueling. We could talk for days about what the perfect diet is. The best way to develop the perfect diet for you, though, is to eliminate the things that you might be eating that are super high taste, artificially flavored stuff. And the reason that it's important to try to get rid of those kind of foods is that they mask our body's natural ability to signal to us we need more protein, or we need more good oils, or we need a little bit more carbohydrate, or we need a little bit more, we're dehydrated and we need to drink some water, whatever it is. The human body is so smart at knowing what it needs to eat, but we can't hear those smart signals if we mask them with that sort of addictive thing that happens when we eat high taste foods. So what are high taste foods that are artificially flavored? Well, like, you know, ranch style Dorito chips, or anything that has artificial flavorings in it, or even natural flavorings that are put into even an organic food. It's concentrated flavoring, and that masks our body's ability to understand what we need. It hits sort of that addictive part of our brain. So instead of searching for the good foods, we constantly search for those things that hit that little high point in our brain. Sugar is one of the biggest ones. It's not a, it really masks our ability to understand what our body is really craving. And when I was racing, there was a gentleman that I was competing against who was one of the best at Ironman distance racing. His name was Dave Scott. And in his career, he also won 6 Ironman Triathlon World Championships in Hawaii. The first 6 years that I went to the race, he was winning. I was getting second. I was getting third. I was getting fifth. I couldn't beat him. As I was getting ready for my 7th attempt to try and win, to beat this guy, I was noticing that I had this little addictive behavior. I would do a long bike ride once a week on Saturdays. And my reward was that I would go to Mrs. Fields chocolate chip cookie store, and I would get 6 chocolate chip cookies, you know, those big, gooey, yummy, delicious chocolate chip cookies that only Mrs. Fields can make. And I thought, well, 1 a day will last me till next Saturday. By the time I got home, there would only be like 2 left. And then I go, I can't leave those poor 2 little cookies all by themselves here for days. I got to eat them right now. And so by the time the day was done, all 6 were gone. Dave Scott was impeccable with his diet. He was pretty much neurotic, to be honest. He ate a lot of cottage cheese to get the fat, to get the protein that his body needed as an athlete to repair and recover. He felt like cottage cheese had too much fat in it. So before he would eat his cottage cheese, he would rinse it in a strainer to get rid of the fat on the outside. So if I was going to win the Ironman, I was going to have to beat a guy who was willing to rinse his cottage cheese. But the light bulb went on when I thought, Dave Scott's rinsing his cottage cheese and I'm eating a half dozen Mrs. Fields cookies in one day. He's winning and I'm not. And so I went cold turkey. I stopped getting those cookies and I craved them for about 6 weeks. Like I'd wake up and go, where are they? Oh, I didn't get it. I can't, wow. And I whined for 6 weeks. And finally, the craving went away. And then I realized that my body was telling me, no, that craving that I thought was for Mrs. Fields was about 20 different subtle cravings that was telling me the real things that I needed to eat. More fat, more protein, more carbohydrate, whatever it is, healthy foods. So the first step in letting your body tell you what works for you is to eliminate those high taste foods that have artificial stuff in them. A few myths, we have to eat 3 meals a day. No, we don't. We can eat 2 meals or we can eat 5 little meals. This is everybody's hardwired a little bit differently. So some people do great on 2 meals a day. Some people do great on kind of grazing throughout the day. There's no one size fits all in that. Eating a ton of fruit, even though fruit is healthy, can be like eating sugar. It hits that little bit of sugar craving. Not all fruits are the same. Berries are berries like blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. Those have a lower glycemic index. So they still taste good, but they don't spike your blood sugar. One of the big things that I prefer not to do is to not drink my calories. And people hate me when I say this because they love their smoothies, right? But in a smoothie, you can put, 2 or 3 bananas and all this other stuff that would take you 2 hours to eat if you actually ate every little piece that was in there. If you're drinking your calories, it's likely that you're going to get in a lot more calories than you would normally, and your body won't shut off your appetite quick enough to go, okay, no, I only needed half that smoothie. Oops, it's too late. I drank the whole thing. Okay. And then, my chocolate chip cookie story, I always had that feeling like I deserve a dessert. No, I don't. Once you've eliminated the high taste foods, artificially flavored high taste foods, go for food that has high nutrient density. And what I mean by this is food that actually does have naturally occurring concentrated calories like nuts or avocado. Go for nutrient dense greens like kale or collard greens. Go for nutrient dense foods as opposed to having an iceberg lettuce salad with some tomato and a dressing out of a bottle. That will fill you up, but it won't fuel you, and your body won't be getting the nutrients that you need. And lacking nutrients is something that will keep your hunger appetite turned on because your body wants those minerals, it wants those vitamins, it wants those phytonutrients that are in super good, healthy foods. And this gets more important as you get older. One of the things that happens as we age is that we need to actually increase the amount of our calories that comes from protein. And part of the reason for that is that we need a higher concentration of protein in the diet than we did when we were younger to stimulate our bodies to repair from the workouts that we do. So a young person, they don't need to eat a lot of protein and their body goes, oh, I've got protein and I did a workout, so let me repair those leg muscles that I worked on my bike ride today or whatever it is. An older man or woman needs to eat a little bit more protein compared to carbohydrate and fat to get that same repair response in your body. So just sort of be mindful with that, of that. And each and every meal, when you're looking at what you have in front of you, ask yourself, is there a good source of protein here? Whether it's animal protein, whether it's maybe something from dairy, or combining grain and legume together so that you get a complete protein. Our food pyramid, got to have those good oils, like from avocado, nuts, olive oil. We have to have protein. We have to have those super deep, rich greens. And then of course you can have some grains. Legumes are great, you know, beans like pinto beans, or any kind of bean. I love hummus. You know, for me, breakfast is a corn tortilla with hummus, with some arugula put on it, with some avocado put on it, with an egg put on it, with a little salsa on top. Yum, and it lasts a long time. Not a ton of calories, but nutrient dense food. This does not mean that your food has to be bland. There's a big difference between having things spiced with naturally occurring spices like peppers or garlic, or, you know, coriander or cumin. That's different than having food that's artificially enhanced flavoring put into it. Okay, so make your food taste good. Eating should be a great experience. It should be something that is enjoyed, and you will enjoy it even more when your body is getting sensitive to the point where it's like, okay, now I'm understanding how to eat for myself, and I am feeling better because of that, and my hormone levels are balanced now, and my energy levels are balanced now, and I'm not craving those chocolate chip cookies anymore. Our inner landscape, that's the final piece. You know, I saw this as an athlete, that there were people who were super fit. You know, they won races, they won championships, they set world's records, and they weren't happy. And I saw other people who never won, and they were so happy. And so we can eat well, but we can exercise perfectly. But also, one big part of our life is addressing our inner landscape. And one of the things as we get older is to kind of, you know, our brain is just like it's a part of our body that needs to regenerate just like muscle. And if we use our brains too much, all the neurotransmitters kind of get depleted during the daytime. And then at night, that's when they regenerate, and hopefully you wake up feeling fresh. It's also like your biceps or your quads or your glutes. If you use your brain some, it stays stronger. And you all know this. So it's like, okay, what are you doing to use your brain to keep it pliable and flexible? Are you learning something new? Learning a new sport is one of the best ways to activate all those parts of your brain that keep it vital and functioning well, because you're having to train your body to move in a different way than maybe you had before. So maybe you were a runner or a walker your whole life, and you've never really swum much. And so here you are, you're 63, and it's like, okay, I'm not too old to learn. Let me go. And you go and you plop in the pool, and you have somebody help you, and you feel like you're sinking every time you go to get a breath, but eventually you kind of get the hang of it. And as you do that, your brain is also, it's learning to move your body in a new way. And as you do that, it keeps your brain enhanced. One of the biggest drains on the brain these days is social media, scrolling and flipping through stuff. And so try to take a point during the day where you let that go. And as you can do that, so let me frame it differently. If you're sitting on the couch and you're scrolling through your Instagram and your Facebook, your body's not moving, but your brain is on high patrol. It's processing a ton of stuff very quickly. That's not relaxing to your brain. Reading a book is relaxing to your brain, because you're going at this nice pace. It's creating this whole scene in your brain. And as you know, if you read a book before bed, you're probably asleep in 10 or 15 minutes. If you're scrolling through your your social media, you're up an hour and a half later than you had planned on it. Funny how that works. So one of the best ways, if you are maybe searching for just a little bit of a better feeling for today, for you, for yourself, for your life, to let go of some stress or to stop worrying about problems for a moment, just get outside, go outside, open the door, walk outside, and I guarantee you, the second you walk out that door, you'll feel a shift in your life. It's like, oh, okay. It's like it disconnects you from whatever was going on in the house, and it revitalizes you. Human beings are designed to feel good when they're out in nature. You know, our ancient ancestors didn't have movie theaters, or they didn't have Netflix. So what did they do? They watched sunrises, they watched sunsets, they hung out and witnessed the change of the seasons. They noticed when flowers came out. They took in that smell. They walked. They felt a part of the bigger picture of life. And if we feel part of the bigger picture of life, we feel great, don't we? When you go outside, have that be your time where you can just daydream. They have found that when you're daydreaming, that's actually when the creative problem-solving part of your brain is working at its best. It's not when you're sitting down focused on trying to solve a problem that it's creatively coming up with solutions. It's when you're daydreaming. And you've probably had this, like you're out and you're walking, and all of a sudden it's like, oh man, that's what I needed to do with, whatever the situation was. Albert Einstein said some of his greatest insights came when he was riding a bicycle. So you want to come up with a theory of relativity? Just hop on that bike, guaranteed. Another thing that will really help, and this has been proven for every culture where people live a long life, is that they have a purpose and a passion, something that makes it worth it for them to wake up each and every day, whether that purpose is taking care of grandkids, taking care of your garden, doing community work, writing, creating art, just whatever it is, something that ignites that part of you that's like, you almost can't hold it back because it's so fun for you to do it. Whatever that is, something that's creative, something that gives you purpose to get up each and every day. And that's not always easy, right? Especially like I said, when the kids are out of the house, you're retired, all of a sudden you wake up and go, well, what now? Try and find what that is. Connect with a community of people. And the more you can do that, the more that inner fuel will fill the tank. It will reduce stress. It will help you to feel vital. It will start to create a circle of positivity for you. So it's like you have purpose to get up. When you feel that purpose, you're happier. When you're happier, you have the energy to move, to exercise. As you move and exercise more, your body starts to crave those things that are healthier for it. So you fuel it a little bit better. And as you fuel your body with better, healthier foods, and also the proportions that work for your body to keep it in a stable state, then your inner landscape also stays positive. It's like a positive reinforcement cycle. Okay. One thing that I think is also important to sort of keep in the back of your mind is how do you readjust your goals as you get older? People always ask me that. They go, Mark, you were like this Ironman champion, dude. So how do you deal with getting older? You can't go out there and win Ironmans anymore. And I go, it's so simple. I just keep downgrading my expectations and I always keep hitting them. I'm happy. Yeah. And so a lot of it is just realizing that what had purpose and meaning for you when you were younger may not be the same things that have purpose and meaning for you now. And it's really great if you can just spend time, even if it's just once a year, and kind of go, okay, what does have purpose for me? And how can I still do the things that I love to do, but maybe in a different way with a different relationship. So for me, example, as an athlete, when I was younger, I was trying to win races. That's a very specific purpose. When I retired from competition, I no longer wanted to race. So then it's like, well, why should I train? Why should I exercise? And so I had to actually redefine what my purpose in my movement that I do each and every day was. And that purpose simply became to just be consistent with exercise, with cardiovascular work, with flexibility work, with doing some strength work, because I saw that I feel good when I do that each and every day. And if I do it each and every day, it keeps me in that state of being very positive all the time. So as you get older, kind of get rid of that FOMO, that fear of missing out. Like, I'm missing out on all the things that I used to do when I was younger. Well, yeah, that's because you're getting older and you get to experience things very differently, but just in different ways, but equally satisfying and fulfilling. Okay. One of the things that, and this goes back to brain health and actually body health, is to try to do things slightly differently each and every day. So maybe you are a runner and that's the only sport you like to do. As you run each and every day, try to move a little bit differently, with a little more fluidity, with a little more, maybe a different stride, a different rhythm, a different breath pattern, different trails, so that each day it's a little bit different, so that you don't dig a rut of what you're doing over and over and over, because then you get stale and then things can hurt and then you get injured or whatever. Doing something every day to perfect yourself a little bit more, whether it's how you move, how you eat, it gives you this freshening up, and it's a learning and creative process, so that each and every day you wake up and you're kind of wondering, well, what's it going to be today that I get to do just a little bit differently than I did yesterday? One of the things I love to do, I live here in Santa Cruz, California, where it's right next to the ocean. We have amazing waves. Surfing is something that I've done since I was a kid, a child. And no 2 days are the same. The waves are never the same. My body's never moving the same. And so I always get the opportunity to try to do it a little bit differently and just to learn a little bit more each day. And it's such a fun way to keep that body creative process going and also keep my brain fresh. So I'll put this slide back up later. It'll be contact information, but I threw a lot of stuff out there. And so what I'd like to do is to really just open it up to questions, and ask me the hard ones. Don't ask me the easy ones. Ask me the hardest ones you can think of, because it's a great opportunity.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, this is where I'll jump in. And thank you. You did cover a lot. And I think this is from my, professional and personal perspective. You gave us a lot that this is so worth going back and listening to again and again. Before I open up to questions, I'm gonna make one comment about that FOMO, fear of missing out, because for all of our listeners, our members, I have to share that Mark joined me on my Sense of Wellness podcast recently. And so I'll say more about that at the end and send out the mailing. So I love having this podcast. So Mark, we had this fabulous conversation, right? And then last week, I learned that FOMO for the first time with my next guest, who talked about, instead of that fear of missing out, she coined the joy of missing out. So why that is so important. I thought you would appreciate that and love that. So JOMO instead of FOMO. All right.
I love that. I love that. And actually, if you're trying to be really good at something, there's a lot of pressure on that. And I'll admit, I love being very mediocre at stuff, because it's like, I will never be the best guy surfing. I will never be the best, at pretty much anything else I do. And so there's no pressure with it. I can just enjoy it. I can enjoy the experience of what I'm doing without worrying about, being at somebody else's standard of perfection or level or whatever. And I think that's That is, I love that, that joy of
So
missing
important,
out.
right?
That's a
The joy
great
of
one.
missing out. And that's what we talk about. It's really well-being. And what does that mean? You're no longer that high performance endurance athlete. And we really focus on, what I do with these webinars and in talking to you is truly finding your happiness, joy, the purpose, and staying healthy while you're doing it so you can do it longer. Okay, all that said, I'll stop babbling and get to the questions because I know people have some really fabulous ones. First of all, what do you do to break through a personal roadblock, both in competition and in life? I think this applies to all aspects of whether you are competing or any, we all reach roadblocks.
Well, there's a couple things. Sometimes a roadblock is just that we're impatient and what we're doing is the right thing, and it will eventually lead to that result or that breakthrough that we're searching for, but we just needed to give it more time to build a critical momentum. So like in my training as an athlete, I would start training in January, and in the beginning of the year, I'd get these, almost daily new levels of fitness, and then it would start to plateau, and then those breakthroughs to the next level took longer and longer to get to, because you get like 80% of your fitness in the first 2 months you get back training, and then it takes another 8 months to get that last 20% or whatever. And so a roadblock can be one that you just need to give what you're doing more time to manifest. A second thing, it can be a roadblock in the sense of maybe you have resistance to what you're doing, and that can be multi-dimensional. It can be that one, what you're doing is just not the right thing for you, or it could be that you just haven't surrendered to the fact that the journey is going to be a little bit more challenging than you thought it would. It might be a little bit more work, and so so it's good to kind of step back for a second and ask yourself, is this block that I have because it's just not right for me, or because I just haven't committed? I just haven't said, okay, I'm going to do those little things day after day after day that will add up to the big things in the long run.
Nice. Not letting go and surrender. Those are two key words there. Love that. Okay, the next one deals with inflammation, and that seems to be a part, I want to say a given as we age. Know so many people dealing with some sort of inflammation in the body. Is it common to experience inflammation of some sort as we age? Is that to be expected?
It can, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And a lot of the inflammation is actually from the diet. Like if people do eat, I hate to say it, but if you eat sugar, sugar is inflammatory. Yep. And so if you're having things that have added sugar or much sugar, especially if you're sensitive to it, that can cause inflammation. Even having a diet that's pretty high in carbohydrate can cause inflammation. And so, eliminating as much of the simple sugars as you can on a consistent basis anyway. Like I don't have any sugar in the house, and I don't buy the chocolate chip cookies anymore. So, 99, yeah, well, 99% of the time, I eat pretty healthy, but when it's somebody's birthday and there's a piece of cake, I'll have it, because it's not like that one piece of cake is going to turn my life upside down. But what you have in your home, so anyway, sugar is one thing that causes inflammation. Even a diet high in carbohydrate, it can cause inflammation. Lack of exercise can actually cause inflammation because everything kind of just like seizes up.
Can I go back to one thing you said too during your presentation, Mark, just to reiterate, and also coming from that nutrition world, is I agree 100% that it's best to not drink your calories, because when you're drinking your calories, quite often that is a sugar overload. And this came up with, and I think people are completely oblivious to how much sugar can be in that iced coffee these days. And so I just want to, bring that up again too. So that is definitely pro-inflammation, pro-inflammatory in the body, the sugar. And then one thing you mentioned that resonated with me is after 50, how quickly the body does respond to things, both I think in you meant more in like negative ways, so like overuse. I'm just guessing that it was like that aha went off for me too. You don't want to overdo it with exercise, right?
Yeah, and that's why, you know, I really emphasize that word consistency. If you're overdoing it and you get injured or burned out or sick, you're not
Mhm.
exercising. If you're not exercising, you're not making yourself healthier. And so I think it's really good if you can find that perfect blend of figuring out what can I do today that will be just a little bit of a stretch for me, but at the same time not too much of a stretch, so that
Okay.
when I get up tomorrow, I'll still be excited and ready to go for another whatever it is that I want to do in terms of exercise. And
Right.
so that's going to be obviously very different for each person. You know, one person, a stretch might be to actually get up and move for 20 minutes throughout the day. For another person, it might be moving, you know, doing an hour of exercise a day, whatever it is. Give it just that little bit of stretch so that when you do it, you're like, right on, you know, I did it. But not so much that you wake up the next day like, oh, geez, I am exhausted. And it might take you a time to find out where that perfect blend is. But if
Right.
you hit that, that's when you're going to hit the real vitality point.
Okay. That's great. All right, I'm going to try to get to all of our questions. For some reason, since it is that Men's Health Week, I'm focusing on these men's questions first. Sorry, ladies. No, I really will get to everything. Okay, so this member writes, I'm a 60-year-old male and an avid cyclist, about 60 to 70 miles per week.
Mhm.
And hang on, let me get that covered up. What are the best recovery foods to reduce the muscle soreness? And this is kind of funny. How many bananas is too many in a given day? This person
Uh,
must eat a lot of bananas for recovery for the potassium.
right.
Yeah.
You know, I don't eat bananas if I'm sitting around
Okay,
because
interesting.
they're pretty high glycemic, so they're pretty sugary, you know. So if you're whatever you're eating when you're exercising during an exercise session, so like if you're riding, you're on your bike and you need some calories, you can take in carbohydrate and you will burn that about as quickly as you're absorbing it. So it doesn't do anything to your blood sugar to spike it generally.
Right.
When you're sitting around afterwards and you have a banana or two, it can spike your blood sugar a little bit, which causes insulin to be released. And insulin also can cause inflammation. It damages the cells actually. And so you
Okay.
just want to try as best as you can to avoid those higher glycemic fruits like bananas. I mean, you'll need carbohydrates to replenish the glycogen that you burn during the workout, but you can get it from other sources like, you know, beans or
Yeah, I was gonna say the starchy foods.
yeah, the starchier foods like that.
Mhm. So thank you. That's helpful. And along those lines, so high protein, low carb diets, do they raise the bad LDL?
Let me just say, you don't want to do anything that's extreme.
Right.
I don't think anyway. You know, I try to look at my plate and go, okay, do I have a good
It's
source of
balanced,
protein?
right?
Yeah, yeah. Do I have a good source of protein? Do I have a good source of oils? You know, are there nuts? Is there avocado? Did I put olive oil on something? If you buy one of the oils that generally has a good rap but isn't really so good for you are the omega-6 oils like canola oil, safflower oil, soy oil, and those are pretty much the base of any kind of oil that you'll get in a bottled salad dressing. So uh, it's always best to actually make your own because that way you can use olive oil. Oil is like the champagne of oils. Um,
I agree.
like canola oil, all the omega-6 oils, canola oil, safflower oil, soy oil, it's unsaturated. However, it's unstable in your body. And if your body's under stress, it can convert it into saturated fat in your body, which ends up clogging things up.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's the
a
answer.
high amount of saturated fat causes inflammation. So if you're having problems with inflammation, it's good to sort of monitor the amount of saturated fat that you're getting in your diet.
I concur. You want good fats, not bad fats. You don't want too much of any of them. And back to the question of the high protein, I don't think you're a proponent or even eating a high protein diet necessarily as much as back to that balance. You need adequate and sufficient protein,
Yeah.
especially as aging and into particularly after 70 even. And we want to spare that lean body mass. So I'm speaking that,
Yeah, because if you're maxing out on tons of protein,
also not good. Yeah.
it stresses your kidneys and
Right.
stuff like that. So
Right. And you said you're really a proponent of a lot of those nutrient dense, I'm going to call them plant foods,
mhm,
leafy greens. People probably get sick of me telling them, eat your daily salad.
mhm.
And the fruits and veggies. But thank you. So it is so important. We fuel ourselves multiple times a day. And I found that I love your cookie story, Mark. Thank you for sharing that. It's real and it's helpful. And it's a transition as far as that. It's baby steps too, coming off of bad habits that aren't making you feel good, I think is really, especially as we age. So here's another diet question, and then I'll okay, well, here's some kind of personally for you. Do you indulge in alcohol?
I do have, I enjoy a glass of red wine. I don't drink beer. It's too
Okay.
doesn't work in my body. I've never drunk hard alcohol, but I'll enjoy a glass of wine or two. Um,
Okay.
it seems to, research anyway tends to say that, you know, especially red wine in moderation, people live longer than people who don't drink any alcohol. So it has its benefits.
Yes, I'm a big fan of those longevity diets and the blue zones, and right,
Yeah,
it's very interesting. No, it's the social factor. There are more factors that come into play with that
yeah,
as well,
yeah.
right? So it's not just
You know,
alcohol.
and to go back to inflammation,
Hmm.
and blood, good blood profile, bad blood profile. I have had blood tests throughout my life since I was in college as a swimmer, and then a number of times as an athlete, and now post competition. And even though my entire life I pretty much have exercised, my HDL, LDL, and triglyceride levels, even though they're in the healthy range, they're at the very high end of any higher, and they would go into the unhealthy range. And so the doctors is like, that's strange that all that's almost out of whack, because you
Yeah.
exercise. Normally people exercise like you, it's all healthy. Well, my father was thin, but he was on, all the medications because his cholesterol and everything were through the roof. And I thought, well, maybe it's just genetic. Fast forward to right about when I turned right around 60, a year or two before that was when I just sort of by accident slowly just eliminated sugar and eating a bunch of carbs in my diet.
Yeah.
And I had the blood test done at 60 to get a health insurance that was, or life insurance that was much cheaper if you were a healthy person, right? And so part of it was you had to have a blood test, and I got the blood test back. And at the time that I had it taken, I was feeling pretty stressed, and I thought I haven't had one in 10 years or whatever. And it's probably, I hope it's still in the healthy range, but normally things creep into
Mhm.
the wrong end of stuff as they age.
Sure.
It was not only was it in the healthy range, but it was in the super healthy part of the healthy range. And so,
Wow.
and the only thing that I had done differently was eliminate sugar and reduce the
Yeah.
amount of carbohydrates that I
Yeah.
eat
That's so
throughout the
interesting.
day. And because of that, all my blood work came back healthier than it's been in my entire life. So that's
That's
just a
incredible.
personal
No,
testimonial.
and I see that in clinical practice as well, and I think that that's fabulous advice to take to heart. And like my pun intended. Um, I could talk about that for a long time. So thank you for going back to that. That's really important. And then the questions are coming in, and we're running out of time. But I do want to cover, because this is really hard. Once as we get older, people have been very sedentary during the pandemic. Do you have any tips for getting started with a new routine and finding expert advice, even like you mentioned online things, expert advice you can trust? Let me see. Yeah, so basically when you don't know and you're just trying to get started, I'll say after 50. So there's that, and then the staying motivated. A lot of people working from home. So
Yeah, the the first part is the hardest, and it's taking that first step to get back at doing something. And so it's, if you can, if there's something that you know you have liked to do in the past, that you kind of let go for a certain period now,
Mhm.
try to make some kind of commitment to yourself of, okay, I'm going to do this for 6 weeks or something, whatever it is. You have a target that will get you to start to become regular with whatever that exercise is, whether it's walking or, whatever. Start from where you're at too with your fitness. If you're completely sedentary and maybe you haven't done anything your whole life, that's fine. Start with slow walking, with maybe it's 5 minutes, and then the next day it's 6 minutes, and you just slowly build up over time. And as you gain proficiency and your body starts to adapt to the actual movement that you're doing, then you'll actually want to do more, and it'll become less of a, oh, I've got to do it, and it'll be more like, oh, I can't wait to do it. And so um, if you can just get yourself to that point where you go from, oh, I have to do it, to, oh, I want to do it. That might take 2 weeks. It might take 6 weeks. It might take a few false starts, because maybe you start back at something you did and you realize, I don't like doing that anymore. And so then you've got to search for something else. And again, one of the best ways to kind of build that consistency is to build your community. So engage a friend, engage a family member, find somebody that you're going to do this journey with, especially in the beginning. And personal trainers, you have to kind of search around in your area, but pretty much every area has personal trainers who help people with walking, with learning how to set up maybe a little strength routine in their home or whatever it is. Or maybe you go to a Pilates class or a yoga class, or just something where there is somebody leading it that can help you out with that. But again, it's like finding that, engaging that community so that you get out there and you do it.
Right. And even what you said, I thought that was interesting, the difference between men and women, how women tend to go do it and men don't. So that's a really, I hope this is motivating to a lot of men and women, of course, obviously. So um, two other questions that they're just kind of, one's fun, and I'm tying them together here, Mark. This member's asking, out of curiosity, why did you stop competing? And then her other question is, and I love this, and I think it's very important, what are your thoughts on meditation, both in general and for reaching goals? So I just asked you three questions in one.
My main goal, my overarching goal when I was racing, was to retire from competition, not injured, not burned out, and healthy. And because I'd seen too many athletes who were really pushing that limit in their sport go 1 or 2 or 3 years too long, and all of a sudden their bodies would break down, and then they couldn't do their sport anymore, and then they also couldn't do much of anything else because they broke their body. And you only have one body. And I thought, I'm in my mid 30s, and I want to hopefully be able to enjoy moving and being and exercising my whole life. And so at right around 37, I go, okay, I could tell I can still race at a world-class level, but if I go much beyond this, I'm going to put myself at risk. And so when I went into my final Ironman at age 37, I knew that was going to be it. And fortunately, I ended up winning it, which made it so easy to walk away like, okay, see ya, But let's see, what was the second part of the question?
About meditation.
Oh, yeah. So yeah,
Meditation?
absolutely. Meditation and anything that gets you to quiet your mind is very, very good. It can be a meditative practice. It can be like I study shamanism with a gentleman, Brant Secunda, and he and I are the ones that wrote that book, Fit Soul, Fit Body, 9 Keys to a Healthier, Happier You. It's available on Amazon. And one of the keys in there is quiet your mind. And so you can do it through meditation. You can do it through just going out in nature and just absorbing the beauty of it and just being aware of life all around you and what's going on in nature. And as you do that, you can feel your mind just go quiet. And a lot of times, and the more that you practice this, getting your mind to be quiet, the more you can call on that when you need it in certain situations that might be stressful, actually. And so, I use this a lot when I was racing. Like, it's very easy to be calm and quiet when I'm sitting on my couch or sitting under a tree. It's another thing when you're in the chaos of an Ironman World Championship and things aren't going the way you hope. And so, because I had practiced that over and over and over, when those negative thoughts were coming in and trying to derail my effort, I could just take one breath and go, okay, there's my quiet space. I mean, sometimes it would take like 10 breaths, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
and then if nothing else, you're calm. Your legs still hurt, your situation, you still have to deal with it, but in that calm, then you might actually hear the answer to what you're searching for.
Mm-hmm.
And put it in place. And even if you don't get an answer, at least you can go back in and stay engaged without that negative thought and that negative voice that's going on in your head. And life is a completely different experience that way when you are quiet like that. Very important. Absolutely.
Extremely important. I love that. And I could keep going if you still have time. I know we're way over an hour. I'm so happy that question was asked, and I wanted to bring it up because you and I, again, to reiterate, we discussed that on our podcast, and I truly think that we could spend the entire time, just on the fit soul, fit body. So, yes, and there members saying, so you're welcome. That really hit home with a lot of people as well. So you tell me, do you want one final question
Oh yeah,
maybe?
I have some time. I'm here.
Okay, so I have two, and one is related to supplements. Do you take any, and do you recommend any, especially after a certain age, or no, just kind of
Yeah, I
related?
do. I think it can help to take kind of a broad spectrum vitamin mineral supplement, just because a lot of the food, that even if it's healthy, it may not have the same nutrient density that it had 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
A tomato doesn't have the same nutrient density that it had. Soils are a little more depleted, and
Yes,
so
how it's grown, where it's
I think
grown.
it's kind of like it's like an insurance policy. I think it can help. Not all supplements are good, though. I don't necessarily have one that I recommend, but to to be effective, it's going to cost a little bit of money. The cheapest ones probably don't do much for your body. Not that
Right.
the most expensive are going to do the most for your body, but yeah, I think,
Purity, the quality, to all of that matters a lot with supplements. I'll just throw
yeah.
that in there. But I agree. It's like even people who are eating super healthy diet probably are falling short on some nutrients. So that's very helpful. And then as far as preventing injury, that's a big area too that's of concern. Do you have any recommendations, thoughts, tips on how to prevent injury? I say this in general, but this specifically was somebody asking about muscle tear in your upper leg. And, I guess in general, people tend to get hurt more easily as we get older.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is to gradually build into whatever it is you're doing for your exercise, so that you're not super stressing your muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Us older folks, it takes us a little bit longer to recover and to repair from
Yeah.
a big workout than a younger person. And so you just have to be very mindful with the pace with which you increase either your volume or your intensity of your training.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing is doing strength work so that your muscles and your joints and your tendons and your ligaments are getting a good, nice workout, and that will help maintain the strength of them so that they have actually less likelihood of getting injured. And then certainly incorporating some form of flexibility into your weekly program is really, really key as well. A lot of excuse me, older folks lose that flexibility, and then they have to do a quick movement to catch themselves or something, and then something twists or tears. And whereas a younger person, because they're much more flexible, wouldn't even come close to stretching a muscle to the point where it would tear or rip.
Right.
So start slowly, build gradually, incorporate strength work, and do flexibility for sure.
So with the flexibility, do you mean daily stretching?
It doesn't have to be even daily, but
Okay.
a couple times throughout the week. And the way I actually like to stretch is to do it through movement, where I slowly move things to a bigger and bigger range of motion until it reaches a point where, oh, that's as far as it can go. And so then you kind of go out there and then you come back and you go out and you come back, as opposed to getting into this intense stretch and then holding it for 5 minutes, because sometimes that can actually cause things to tighten up even more.
Okay. Okay, this is all right. Here's the I love these questions because you and I touched on all of this in our podcast too, but you're gonna love this one. How much sleep do you get?
I am the king of all sleepers. Sleep is so important, especially as you age. They say in theory you don't need quite as much sleep as when you were younger, but the sleep that you do get is more important. And so, and older folks can find it harder to sleep soundly.
Exactly.
So sleep is super important as far as recovering, not only helping your body to repair and replenish, but also for your brain to stay fresh and functioning. And so if you're scrimping on sleep, it works opposite. Lack of sleep is one of the stresses that can cause all of the same things as emotional stress. So lack of sleep is a stress. It's one of the stresses in life. If you have lack of sleep can lead to depression. It lowers energy levels. It can compromise your immune system. It definitely slows recovery and repair if you're not getting enough sleep.
Right.
How much is enough sleep? That's going to be individual for sure. I love to try to get a good night's sleep. And then I also, almost every day, I'll take a short nap. And that just seems to be like it's like I feel like my brain gets a bath during that little nap time. And I wake up.
Check out for
Yeah, you just check out for 20 minutes and wake up and it's like, oh, I got a whole new day ahead of me now.
That's where I practice the joy of missing out. I'm queen of power naps.
I agree. Yeah.
And I have a question related to that, Mark. Did your sleep improve? I don't think you ever historically had bad sleep. However, did it improve once you did start doing the meditation and other, the mindfulness and working with the shaman?
Yeah, because with that, I seem to kind of be in a space where I am more. It doesn't bother me if I have unanswered questions or things that I'm trying to solve and have solutions to. And so when I go to bed at night, I'm not sitting there processing my entire day trying to figure my whole life out. When I go to bed at night, I'm able to just go.
Right. You allow yourself to put it over there.
Yeah.
And turn your brain off.
Yeah. So it's definitely helped with getting really good quality sleep.
It's fantastic. And for those who stuck around to the end, I hope they benefit from that. No. So I really would love to talk to you all evening. I just recognized that, well, here on the East Coast, it's going on 9 p.m. And I think my internet is telling me what's to go. So any final takeaways, Mark? Any final messages? I wrote down a whole bunch. And just to reiterate, we do send out the recording and your slides to everybody.
Well, just, basically two things. One is to remember that consistency. That's what makes huge transformations in your life. Just being able to do those little by little turns into a lot. One walk or run won't change your life, but 1,000 of them can completely transform your body. It can help reduce stress. It can make you healthier. It can revitalize you. And so, just put those little things in play each and every day with your movement, with how you fuel your body, with your inner landscape. And then just enjoy it. Life is not without challenge. We all know that. And if you've made it to 50 and beyond, you know that life is going to have challenge, but that's okay. That's also where we end up learning and evolving and becoming stronger and better human beings. And then we can also help others with those experiences that we have had in our life. So
true. Thank you. Very wise words of wisdom. I guess, is that redundant? Wise words of wisdom. Very wise. Thank you for your words of wisdom. How about that, Mark? We were joking beforehand of, like forgetting little things. Staying sharp as we age. No, in all seriousness, you're just such an inspiration. I really, love talking to you, and you have so much to share with our members and everyone. So thank you very, very much. And I would be thrilled to have you back sometime.
Thank you. And good luck, everybody. You can always contact me. The last slide that you'll get has websites, and then you can also always email me, mark@markallencoaching.com. And if you have any questions that were unanswered from tonight, I'd be happy to answer them for you. So.
Thank you. You might get a full inbox.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, and hope to see you back soon.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks, Mark. Bye.